Well, good morning. How about a little Sunday morning Fleabay edition here? Now, I wasn't going to do one of these for a little bit. I've thought about them and I thought, this is kind of hateful a little bit, so may not be the best thing in the world, but when I look at what some of these sellers are doing and some of the things that are going on our wonderful little auction site, why, I think it's worth talking about. I think we as buyers need to be better informed, and maybe as sellers too, we need to know what's expected of us or what standards we should be held to. So that's kind of what this is. And like I say, I wasn't going to do this, but I started going through my morning stuff here, drinking my coffee, and a couple of things caught my eye right off the bat. So I guess I'm always a little irritated, but I'm a little irritated here anyway because I've ordered the round stock, the 4-inch long, 4-inch diameter piece of round stock for on the sand mower. Well, apparently that seller's decided that he's not in a big hurry to ship it if he ships it at all. And when I originally purchased that, I looked at feedback, and his feedback was not stellar, but it was okay. Well, when I look at it this morning, after I've already sent him off, my third email this morning, I've sent him two previously, and I ordered this, a little over a week ago, I guess, and I've heard nothing. Now it shows tracking, but it hasn't been shipped. It shows that the tracking information has been sent to the post office and it's waiting to be received by them. So I very firmly believe, especially after reading feedback this morning, that it has not been shipped. And by tomorrow, I'll probably, if I haven't heard a response back, I'll probably be trying to cancel that order and filing a claim with eBay. And I understand if there's somebody slow shipping or something like that, and I don't always get on stuff, getting it shipped out immediately either. So I understand that, but there needs to be some communication along the way. So as I look at his feedback this morning, there's been a couple other complaints that, yes, didn't ship for 2 weeks, the exact same thing. Tracking information was provided, but it didn't ship for a couple of weeks and wasn't received at all and packaged poorly and lots of things. So be sure you check the feedback on these sellers, which isn't always an indication, but if they've got a fair amount of negative feedbacks, there's usually an issue there. A lot of times when I see sellers with excellent feedback, like I'm looking at one right now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the product that they're providing is up to those standards either. So anyway, that's my rant right off the bat. But I started going through listings this morning, and I'll do the same thing. We'll go through a few of them and see what we see here. When I started looking at Atlas lathe parts, there's a compound for a 10-inch lathe, and the listing, and this is from a seller that's been around for a while, got really good feedback, and he sells quite a bit here on Fleabay, and the listing is outstanding, all in capital letters and exclamation points. Atlas Craftsman 10-inch lathe tool post compound N612, and it's on a buy it now, $240. Well, I think that's way too much. I think realistically a good setup, maybe 125, maybe 150, but that's the very outside that I'd be willing to pay for these, and I feel that's really all they're worth. Now, before we go over these pictures, I'll go down to the listing and we'll read it. Atlas Craftsman 12-inch lathe tool post compound M66. Condition is used, shipped with USPS priority mail, medium flat rate box. So the description is not right either. It is actually a 10-inch compound, or off of a 10-inch lathe. I can tell that by looking at the top tool post holder. So this is one of those sellers that apparently is listing so much stuff and they're not watching as close maybe as they could be, and so this description is not wrong. The initial heading is right and this is not wrong, but then down below it describes it. It says super clean, very little wear, came off a machine that was in outstanding condition. Well, when you look at the pictures, if you look close at them, that's bullshit. So what we've got, let's just go through picture by picture here. So if you want, you can go back and find this listing. It's not going to be tough to find. And this is either new listing or relatively new listing if you go through your stuff from new listings back. So when you look at this, first picture is a top position thing. The top machine surface is stained like crazy. It had a round tool holder on it, you know, standard Atlas base on it, which was a circular base. You can tell that by looking at it. The rest of it stained like crap, and that's the main thing. And I'll just go off of these pictures, because as you go down through these pictures, they give you more and more information about the condition of this. So initially, that's what it tells me. It's stained on top. The paint's wore off on the top. So that means that as that machine has been used over the years, why those adjustable tool posts have been slid and everything, and it's scraped the paint off that top surface. Not really that unusual. You know, that doesn't really surprise me. The handle in the back doesn't look bad. Or the handle for the compound doesn't look bad. Dirty, some staining on the dial and that kind of thing, but nothing major wrong jumps out at me at that point. Now I'm looking, it's got the locks, the square-headed lock screws that, you know, some people think are worth big bucks, and we've already figured out we can go to our local hardware store and get them for $1 a piece, 99 cents a piece. I'm going to have the sliders in it. So there's first picture, and there's a scale next to this, so you can get some sort of a scale. You look at the second picture, and you look at the top of the compound. Well, it's been ran into the chuck. You can see the scrape marks, which isn't unusual either, but it's been beat to crap there more than one time. You know, that's a normal occurrence, so I don't really hold that against the machine or the parts, but it's not. It takes away from this outstanding condition and very little wear and use. The compound indicator is stained like crazy. And this whole assembly is pretty grungy. It hasn't been cleaned up hardly at all, which, you know, if you're wanting to get that big bucks out of it, well, you probably should be cleaning them a little bit better. But there again, it's in filthy condition, basically. So that's the main thing it tells me on the second one. It does have the cross-slide cover on it, the little cover that a lot of times you don't see on those, you know, when they're parting them out like this. Usually they'll sell them separate. Nothing else jumps out at me, just kind of dirty condition, not anything great. Now you look at the bottom, and in outstanding condition. When you look at the wear surfaces on the very bottom of this, you see striations on both sides going down. This has had crap riding underneath it for years. And, you know, I'm bad on my Sheldon lathe. It's usually in pretty grungy condition too. So a lot of that is after you've had a machine for so long and you know there's wear in it and everything, why you tend to kind of flog the machine a little bit and you don't work them, or you don't clean them quite as well as you should. But anyway, that's what's happened here. There's all kinds of markings down here. Now it's tough to say if the camera makes it worse or than it really is, or if it hides stuff. But when you look at this, you kind of look at the edges, and you see a little more striations on the edge. So what that tells me is there's enough wear in it and out of adjustment that it's been able to rock as it's gone forward and back. Why it rocks depending on which way you're cranking the cross slide screw. So I tend to believe that this has been worn pretty well. It had a lot of grunge stuck underneath it. So that's what the bottom piece tells me. Now we go to the next one, and it shows you the brass nut. This thing has had the crap run out of it. It's worn out. You know, you look inside the threads, and granted it's all dirty, but you look inside the threads and there's all kinds of crap still down in there. It's scarred. That nut is trashed. You know, that's a piece of crap there. That's going to have to be replaced if you want any kind of use out of it all. You know, when you see that kind of wear marks, you see the edges have sharpened themselves up pretty well, and in some places, and they beat themselves down in other. That cross feed nut is wore out, just flat wore out. You see the next picture, it shows you a little bit of the markings, although not very bad, on the very bottom of the base. You know, there again, it shows a few, but that picture doesn't really tell you anything. There's nothing there, nothing to see here, folks. And the other one is the other side, kind of the same thing. It shows the gib in there, and it's not, you know, it doesn't really tell us anything either. A little bit more, you can see some of those striations on the very base plate. They don't look tremendously bad in that picture, but they are there, you know. So, you know, they'll tell you it's outstanding condition, but it's not. Next one shows you the handle. Handle's got some wear, not the worst in the world. A lot of grunge on the nuts there and everything. There again, the graduated scale, the dial's a little bit dirty. It's not, or a little bit beat up. It's not really anything that's tremendously bad, other than it's been used an awful lot over the years, and it's got some wear on it. The set screw that locks it in has been ogled out a little bit, and it's burred up a little bit on the hole where the set screw goes in. Nothing that I'm really going to hold against the part, other than it's not in outstanding condition. And I think this is the, no, that's not the last picture. I think this is the next to last picture. Shows you one side of the compound, and it shows you the width of the T-slot and everything. There's a scale sitting on top. There again, about 30 years worth of grime around the adjustment nuts and things like that. There again, you look at the edge of that top slide, it's been beat against the chuck. You know, it's been run in there and whacked against whatever, either the chuck or the work surface, something in there to where it's been beat up. The adjustment screw for the gib of that top piece, the slotted screw, is all wore out, you know, side to side on both edges. Why it's had a screwdriver that doesn't fit, which is not unusual. And then the lock nut is burred up a little bit. So this part's been around a long time. It's been beat around, and it's been well abused. So next one doesn't show you anymore. Shows you the depth of the T-slot and everything, which you know anyway, and gives you a little bit better view of that poor adjustment nut and screw. So that's my only rant with that little part. But that's something, you know, be looking for that stuff, because here again, this is another one of those parts that not only is it mislabeled in part of the listing as far as its description, but it's just been beat to crap, and they're telling you it's outstanding. So that's a piece of shit. So anyway, that was the only one that really stood out to me. There's a tool post grinder that's been listed here, a 10450 tool post for $575 and then $60 shipping. And I think when I read this listing, why the seller accurately described it. You know, he got it from apparently from an estate back on the East Coast. I think he said up in Maine. You know, it looks to be a complete Atlas tool post. I think his listing is very honest about it. He says he ran it and it sounds good, both in the wheel head and in the motor. I would, you know, I think it would be a good part if you were going to kind of refurbish it and use it on your machine. I think it would be a very useful part. I think it would be a very good investment, but not for $575. You know, those tool posts should be in this condition. I'd say maybe $400, three to $400 probably. It hasn't been run for years. You can tell if you look at the pulleys inside for the flat belt, why it's all rusted up there. A lot of corrosion on it. It's sat in that wet environment. You know, not necessarily abused, but it sat underneath somebody's bench or on a shelf someplace on the East Coast there for, you know, 20, 30 years, whatever the case may be, and it shows a lot of corrosion there. It would be good for a restoration, I think, and to have a good, useful original Atlas tool post, but the money's too high. Too high there. You know, so that's my take on that, but I think we do have a seller that's at least honest with his listings. You got a 12-inch 36T change gear for $20. That's from a seller that's done a little bit of stuff here. $20 and $5 shipping. That's getting closer to what they should be. I'm seeing an awful lot of milling attachments from the lathe. Here's a 10-inch lathe, quick change gearbox assembly, N550. They want $800 and another $166 to ship it. These people are smoking dope. You know, when you're spending that much money for some of this junk, why you're getting ripped off. You know, the only way we're going to get these prices down is to tell these people we're not paying this much for them. You know, I mean, it's get them back to where they should be, and we'll be interested in purchasing your products again. That's the only way we're going to do that. So let's go back and what do we got here for milling machine parts, new parts? There's not really anything I see that anybody's putting out new specifically for the Atlas mills. There's this Marvin machine slotting attachment that's been around here for quite a while for $3,000 with 0 bids. It's been listed several times. You know, that's a cool little attachment, but not for that kind of money. You know, that's way too much for these machines. I see guys are doing some refurbishing on some stuff and trying to get bigger bucks. I personally would rather have a part that is in its original condition, maybe cleaned up a little bit, but that's it. That way I at least know what I'm buying, rather than somebody trying to hide stuff underneath an XY milling vise, you know, which is, it's an original Atlas Craftsman cross slide that they built, compound cross slide for the on the drill presses mainly, and then there was the 2-piece vise that went on top of those, $375 and $20 shipping. It's been reworked and everything. It's probably worth that, but it seems a little high. A lot of milling attachments here lately, any place from $200 on up to $450, you know, and these guys are throwing a coat of paint on them and telling you they're in excellent condition, and they're screwing you. You know, here's a 10-12-inch 10501 and 10502 milling attachment. It's got 2 bids. It's at $255. This thing's been trashed. It's got dirt and rust all over it and everything. Atlas horizontal milling machine drawbars, good used condition, $100 with 0 bids. Build your own. You know, the prints are out there for that. If you don't have the prints or don't really understand the way to put one of those together, to turn one of those down, let me know if you want. I produce those for a while. I'll probably produce a few more and throw them out on the website. They're not worth giving $100 for. You know, it's you're being ripped. So don't do that. Anyway, that's kind of my little spiel for the day. Sunday morning. You know, here's another milling attachment that's had a coat of gray paint thrown at it. $300 by it now and $22 shipping. The reality is, a milling attachment is, if you've got no other way to run milled parts out, they're probably a good deal. Milling attachments are cumbersome, clumsy, and not real rigid. But if it's your only option on an Atlas lathe, then yeah, pick one up, build one, buy one, do whatever the case may be. But watch the pricing on it. You know, they're putting them awful high on this stuff. Let's see, the only other thing that we'll look at very quickly is shaper stuff here, and I don't see anything new. That there's still a oil pan on here, used oil pan, $69, 0 bids. This has been on quite a while, and it kind of surprises me that it is still here. That's not a bad price. You know, that's a good deal for a machine oil pan. So that's about it. So I'm going to do a quick edit on this, throw it out for you guys so you can see what you think of it, and enjoy your Sunday. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.